Welcome back to Bridgerton Fancast. We're a podcast created by two fangirls to discuss the hit Netflix show Bridgerton and its spin-off Queen Charlotte.
I'm Michelle. I live in the States. You can find me at Musings on Instagram and Twitter.
And I'm Rita. I live in England, and I'm at Annoying Rita on Instagram and Twitter.
In this podcast, we will be discussing episode 3 of the miniseries Queen Charlotte, which was titled Even Days, and was written by Shonda Rhimes and directed by Tom Verica. Before we start, we want to give everyone a trigger warning. There is another sexual assault in this episode. Joy. So we will be discussing that. Okay, without further ado, let us begin.
Huzzah! Okay, the episode began on Coronation Day. Brimsley finds Reynolds loitering below stairs amongst the servants of Buckingham House and accuses him of looking for another rider.
What the fuck? But we all know what that is.
Reynolds promises him that he is not and begs him to go find his queen. As Brimsley leaves, he glances at an open door inside. Is George being examined by a doctor? Brimsley is horrified. Why is he being examined by a strange doctor in the cellar? Reynolds makes him promise not to say a word to Charlotte. He doesn't say anything in return. That was obviously not going to happen. We then meet the young Violet Ledger, the future Viscountess Bridgerton. It seems her mother has a lot of opinions about the marriage of George and Charlotte and says, quote, "Their love means we now live in an unnatural society," end quote.
Clutch the pearls.
There's nothing natural about these people's hair, that's for sure. Violet jumps in with some perfectly timed questions for her dear papa.
Daddy, the king gave them titles, did he not?
Yes, Beauty.
And land?
Yes, Prince. Why do you ask?
Well, Mother said they were not ours. But the king gave our family a title and land. All the families of the Ton got their titles and land from the king.
It is not the same.
It is. And Mother, they are gentlemen. Daddy always defines a gentleman as a well-educated man of good family. Lord Danbury attended Eton with the king's father, and Lord Smythe-Smith and Lord Cummings were both at Harrow. And they all attended Oxford with Daddy. So they are exactly like us. Better in some cases, considering that several of them are from royal families of their own, and have much more money than we do.
Violet Ledger, stop talking this instant. That is too much thinking. What has that governess been teaching you?
She's obviously gone to the same school of mothering as Portia Featherington.
Oh, God. We then cut to 1817, soon to be 1818, by the looks of it, because Queen Charlotte is heckling the footman decorating the Christmas tree to make it more festive. Charlotte spots her daughters enjoying themselves around a doll's house and starts snarking at them that they can't marry a doll's house. She concedes that their wombs are probably dry and useless anyway. God. It's honestly very mean, but hey, it wouldn't be Christmas if a family member wasn't making unsolicited remarks about your marital status, now would it? After the titles, we cut to Lady Danbury preparing for another audience with Princess Augusta. Her husband, thinking them to be friends and not just strategically aligned enemies, asks Agatha to propose that they host the first ball of the season. Agatha and Augusta meet for their tea, which has the feeling of a spy meeting with her handler. Agatha tells Augusta that the newlyweds enjoyed a wonderful honeymoon, and the coronation has only drawn them closer.
Cuts to Coronation Day, and it's as you would expect. There's Westminster Abbey, crowns, scepters, thrones, all your fave hits.
Yeah.
Lots of fake smiles and hand-holding in front of jubilant crowds that follow them through the streets of London and watch as they enter Buckingham House. As soon as the doors are closed behind them, they rip their hands apart like they're on fire.
Oh.
We cut back to the tea where Augusta asks if she's spoken to Charlotte about producing an heir. Agatha says she has, and we cut to a conversation Charlotte had with Augusta in the gardens of Buckingham House. Charlotte complains about hating George like the whiny teenager she is. Agatha encourages her to become with child, Charlotte complains that that's all they do. It seems they have some kind of agreement where they have sex on even days. We then cut again. All these cuts are very confusing.
Yeah.
To post-coronation fucking. For all their feigned annoyance, as soon as they're alone together, they rip each other's clothes off and start to screw on a desk. We then see Charlotte and George having dinner together, and despite him sitting like 50 yards away, she insists he is breathing too loudly. George complains that she's been behaving like a child since the first morning here, and when he asks her if he should leave, she stops him with a kiss. And before you know it, they're about to fuck on the table, much to the horror of the footman, who starts scrambling for the door. Cringe. But sex isn't over yet, folks. Charlotte interrupts one of George's baths, then wades on in her nightgown, and they begin to make the most of their even day. Thankfully, the tub is gigantic, because if it was one of those little iron ones, they would have been screwed.
Yeah. Charlotte heads to the orangery, where she once again tries and fails to pick her own orange. She informs Brimsley that from now on, she picks her own oranges. They discuss her schedule, and she asks about formal engagements, balls, dinners. She is told that the king does not allow social events at the palace, and he does not attend any. Charlotte asks why, and Brimsley suggests that it might have something to do with the doctor. Gee. You were waiting very patiently to drop that bomb, weren't you, Brimsley? Later that night, Reynolds and Brimsley fight. Reynolds says he thought they had agreement, but Brimsley insists that as his wife, Charlotte should know if he is ill. Reynolds says there is nothing to know and storms out. Upstairs, post-coital Charlotte and George are both putting their clothes back on when Charlotte asks if he is ill. She mentions the examination in the cellar. George lies and says, the crown must be examined on coronation day. Charlotte clearly doesn't believe him, but huffs off in annoyance, muttering the words that he screamed at his mother in the previous episode. I am now living for the happiness or misery of a great nation.
I just found out that was a real thing he wrote down. That's a real quote. What
wow.
a line.
Oh, God.
We then cut back to the tea Agatha and Augusta are having. Remember that? It's been like 10 minutes since the scene started, and it's been cut to like 6 different timelines. Anyway, Augusta wants to know if there are any signs of a baby.
We need a baby. A royal baby is a cause for celebration for the commoners, a sign of love to all, and ensures the succession of the bloodline. A baby seals the great experiment. We cannot fail.
I wouldn't worry, Augusta. With the way these two have been going at it, they should be producing a baby in no time. Agatha suggests that she can help the great experiment by hosting a ball. Augusta is like, how would that help? There's no way it would be accepted. So Agatha's like, if you want to know when the baby's coming, you have to let me have this damn ball. After another Lady Danbury rape scene, we get another bath scene. Agatha asks Coral to make preparations for the ball. Augusta may still be deliberating about it, but they need to send out invitations before she decides. Force her hand a little. We then cut to 1817. Lady Danbury runs into Violet Bridgerton in church. Violet is lighting a candle for Edmund, as it would have been his birthday that day. She explains that he loved his birthday, and she used to make him decorative hats, similar to those her father made her for her own birthday. After Violet is done indulging in her reminiscing, Agatha tells her she is most fortunate, which shocks Violet.
In 1761, Violet is wearing a silly birthday hat when she hears her mother shriek. They have received an invitation to the Danbury Ball, but she insists that they are not going. Cut to Buckingham House. Charlotte and her ladies in waiting are enjoying a musical performance by a young Mozart. Lady Ledger, who is one of the ladies, is appalled and asks questions if the new queen has any taste. Agatha says Her Majesty has an excellent musical ear and asks Charlotte where she found this musical prodigy. Charlotte is not listening. In fact, she has her face pressed against the palace window and is mooning over her shirtless husband, who is making his way back from the walled gardens with a shovel. Across the room, Lady Ledger thanks Lady Danbury for the invitation to her ball, but laments that she can't make it. And turns out none of the ladies in waiting can. Charlotte follows her husband back to his room where she confronts him about how he spends his days. He tells her he enjoys farming. Part of his scientific studies involve farming practices. Charlotte calls him Farmer George, and he shows her his hands are rough with work. Charlotte looks confused and goes to inspect his gardens, where she learns they are only vegetables. She looks disappointed and leaves. Oh.
Over at St. James's Palace, Lord Bute is yelling at Augusta for allowing the Danburys to send out invitations as if she had any damn thing to say about it.
Uh-huh.
If Lady Danbury throws a ball that the white aristocrats won't attend, the palace will lose all moral authority and the great experiment will fail. Bute wants the Danburys to withdraw their invitations and asks Augusta to talk to Lady Danbury out of it. The next day, Agatha catches Charlotte once again staring out the window at George. Go get a hobby.
Yeah.
She tries to get her attention and asks her to encourage the other ladies in waiting to attend her ball. Charlotte, completely clueless, is like, "But you've invited them. What's the issue?" And goes back to staring at George. Agatha loses it and gets up in her face and explains that as queen, she is coddled from the experiences her fellow black aristocrats are facing.
Do you not understand? You are the first of your kind. That opened doors, so we are new. Do you not see us? What you are meant to do for us. I tell you to consummate. I tell you to become with child. I tell you to endure for a reason. You're so preoccupied with whether a man likes you. You're not some simpering girl. You are our queen. Your focus should be your country, your people, our side. Why do you not understand that you hold our fates in your hands? Your palace walls are too high, Your Majesty.
Charlotte then goes to her orangery and finds she can pick her own oranges now. A win. She then realises that all the men that served the orangery have now been fired. In a very literal sense, showcasing the power she has to change lives for people. I hope they're not starving.
Yeah, me too.
You could have just redeployed them, honestly, Brimley. Anyway. She should probably be wielding that power more carefully from now on.
Yes. What's the phrase? With great power comes great responsibility.
Is that Spider-Man?
Yeah. Yeah. Charlotte, dressed for bed, clutches her stomach at where you suppose a womb might be and looks thoughtfully into the mirror. She then thoughtfully makes her way to George's room for their scheduled sex. Brimsley steps out of the room and waits outside with Reynolds. They do the patented period drama hand-touching cliche we are all too familiar with. Inside, post-coitus, Charlotte starts quoting George again, and he cringes, but this time when she says, "You live for the happiness and misery of a great nation," what she means is, that sounds exhausting and lonely, and she understands why he would want to spend his time outdoor in the gardens. He tells her not to feel sorry for him, as he is used to being more of an exhibit than a person. Charlotte tells him he can be a person with her, and from now on, there will be no more even or odd days, just days. Charlotte then asks for a favor. We cut to the Danbury house, a hive of activity, setting up for the ball. Agatha panics at the thought of no one coming, but miraculously, the first people through the door are Lord and Lady Ledger, which baffles her. But Lord Ledger sneakily explains to Agatha that his wife received a personal note from the king. How could she miss an event the king is planning to attend? Charlotte really came through. Princess Augusta is next to arrive and to give the ball her seal of approval, and by the looks of it, of the queue behind her, the ball is a huge success.
But Unfortunately, when we cut to the actual dancing, it's very clear that the guests have segregated themselves into two halves of the room. Only there was an influential interracial couple to save the party. What do you know? George and Charlotte make a grand entrance, thank their hosts, and then begin dancing to a classical rendition of If I Ain't Got You by Alicia Keys. Just casually.
Yes.
One by one, other interracial dance partners make their way into the floor, including Lady Danbury and Lord Ledger. Watching on in proud amazement is Princess Augusta, who remarks that she's never seen her son so happy before. Still dancing, Charlotte thanks George and he tells her, "You'll never have to thank me. We're a team." Oh.
So sweet.
Back at Buckingham House, George watches Charlotte being undressed and tells her that she is spectacular. He thinks that their actions that night will change Britain more in one night than it has in the past century. He then lifts her up and carries her to his bedchamber while she giggles and her attendants smile. Lord and Lady Danbury bid their last guests goodbye and then squeal in excitement. Unfortunately, the good times come to an end when Lord Danbury wants to take this party into the bedroom. And before you know it, we're watching yet another rape scene. Only this time, Lord Danbury collapses mid-thrust.
Wow.
Agatha goes to find Coral and share the good news, and the women hug each other in delight. Before staging a really rather elaborate discovery of his body by the rest of the household. They've been practicing that.
Yeah. It's like, code red. Beetlejuice is down. We then cut back to 1817. Agatha has invited an unwilling Violet around for tea. Violet is being quite rude, clearly annoyed by the previous comment about her being fortunate. Agatha explains that when she ran into her at the church, she had been to see the Archbishop, discussing funding a school for orphan girls in the name of Lord Danbury. Why? Well, because Lord Danbury disdained orphans. Thoughts of educating the poor was a waste and found girls only useful for breeding. It dawns on Violet that she might have misunderstood Agatha's relationship to her husband.
You loved, and in your loving, you go to church to seek solace and connection. In you, Edmund lives on. I loathed, and in my loathing, I fund a school to seek revenge and satisfaction. In me, Herman rots. Your heart is full. Mine starves. So when I called you fortunate, it is because you are fortunate.
Violet suggests they have something stronger than tea. Hear, hear. Across London, Charlotte stares at her Christmas tree and sips the sherry Brimsley brings her. She asks him why her daughters never married. Brimsley is not stupid and tries to avoid the question by flattering her, but when forced into a corner, admits that he thinks since the king became ill, she has become frozen in time, waiting for her husband, and her daughters could not bear to leave her trapped. Charlotte, clearly moved by his answer and finding human emotions uncomfortable, orders him to go stand across the room and not to speak again.
Oh, she's so relatable. Okay. We then head back to 1761. It's the middle of the night in George's bedchamber, and Charlotte wakes to realise her husband is gone. She hears a rustling and, just like any good horror movie lead, goes to light a lantern and find out what's going on. She finds George muttering to himself and drawing the dreaded Bridgerton tree in the title sequence on the wall. That's when you know shit's about to go down.
Yes.
When George sees her, he looks confused and heads out of the bedroom and down the hall of the palace. Or house at this point, I suppose.
Yes.
It's still called Buckingham House. Anyway, Charlotte follows after him, calling his name, which he ignores, One of the servants sees them wandering the halls and goes to find help. Reynolds runs out of his room with Brimsley, who he begs to keep guard at the garden door and lock the servants out of the back hallway. George then goes into the garden looking for Venus and begins screaming up into the sky, "I see you! Venus, my angel!" He begins stripping his clothes off and bowing down to the planet in the sky. Reynolds rushes in to try and convince him to dress, but is ignored. After watching him with some trepidation, Charlotte decides to take charge. She tells him she is Venus, and she's going back inside to Buckingham House. She wraps him up in a blanket and walks him slowly back inside. The end. Okay, what was your first impression?
Yeah, I thought the pacing of the episode was fine. All of the bouncing back and forth and back and forth and forth and back and sideways and all that kind of stuff was really confusing at first. But I soon got into the rhythm of the story of what they were trying to convey. And so, I think this was the first episode where I didn't find all of the back and forthing, just really difficult with a capital E to deal with. It's something to expect, and that's the way they're going to tell the story. But, in any event, I thought that, I thought the story was great. Really, we were talking about, last week how, the show is, kind of taming down some of the sex scenes that they utilized in season 1 of Bridgerton. Well, here we are. They're back.
I will say they were like fully clothed for the majority of them.
Yes.
I was like very struck by how we were just watching thrusting for like 90% of the episode. They're at it again.
Yeah, but inventive. Charlotte, wading into the bathtub with, complete with her robe on. But anyhow, I thought that the story, I thought it was a good story, and loved the way that Charlotte was able to see him for who he was and not run from it, and show her strength and, her willingness to, play along with whatever was going on. That's her husband, and she's going to do whatever she needs to protect him. And, so all in all, I enjoyed the episode. How about you?
I'd say it was I had a bit more of a mixed reaction to this episode, because I found a lot of it to be a lot of fun. And I obviously really enjoyed the sex scenes were really funny. But there were aspects that fell a little flat for me again. The further we got into the episode, I feel like the more disappointed I became at how slapdash some of these resolutions felt. And I still feel like the timelines feel really disjointed. I thought we'd get more like melding of the two by now, because we're halfway through the season and I expected them to sort of at least be thematically linked, but I was just like, wait, we're in Christmas? What the hell? Like, what's going on? But one thing I did really enjoy was the Great Experimental Ball, shall we call it?
Yes.
I really enjoy like watching the political wrangling around the Great Experiment more than probably anything else on the show, and the way that like the Parliament puts pressure on Lord Bute, and then he puts pressure on Augusta, and then she puts pressure on Agatha, who then in turn yells at Charlotte. Like, it's all just a mess. It's fascinating to watch all these different people, and that they all have really different priorities and agendas, and they sometimes clash. And I loved the scene where Agatha just lost her shit at Charlotte and was like, woman,
girl, snap out of it.
People are depending on you.
Yes. And you're sitting here mooning at the window, at your half naked husband.
She's like, if you weren't the queen, and then Charlotte's like, but I am the queen, and just like, Charlotte, listen to the rest of the sentence. If you weren't the queen, ... That also reminded me of the email we got last week that suggested the show would be better from Lady Danbury's point of view. I was like, this week I really felt that because she was much more active in like the functioning of the Great Experiment and all of the wrangling and agendas. Charlotte seems to be more of a bystander in this situation.
Like a secondary character,
Like, Lady D is in the trenches fighting for their rights, and then Charlotte just shows up and gets all the credit. I was like, really? When George was like, you've changed society in one night. I was like, no, Lady Danbury did that.
Yes. Great strategic thinker, that Lady D. But yeah, I really enjoyed the ball as well, and I think one of the things that I appreciated about it was that, it is not, this focus on, is she having a baby? Is she having a baby? Is she having a baby? It's like the experiment, that the baby might seal the Great Experiment, but they were able to make great strides in this experiment through that ball. Didn't have anything to do with her womb.
I think the baby will seal her status and her position, but they have to do much more work in order to create a society that is inclusive. And it's not just going to be healed with the baby. Like, she needs to be more proactive, which is why I was very much like, yes, listen to Lady Danbury. Listen to her. She's right.
She is a great source of counsel. So, listen to what she has to say. Miss Thang.
Do you not think it's bizarre that Charlotte is so completely removed from thinking about her position and like what she can do for people, though? Because I think, you become Queen of England, it suddenly gives you a lot more influence. Wouldn't you be thinking about, what can I achieve with this role?
I have to think about, how they have sheltered her. And this is just thinking from the show's perspective, not even getting into the whole historical aspect of things. But, she's basically been sheltered in that house for her honeymoon, and not given the opportunity to kind of see how things are going or not going when it comes to the changes in diversity and that kind of thing in her kingdom. As I was looking at the ladies in waiting,
the token black lady.
They had like the token black lady. They had someone who looked Asian in there, but then the rest of them were pretty much white. So, it's like, okay, well, that's not a whole lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion in there. Thank you. So, I think to me it is, definitely diversity light going on right now. And, we're not seeing, massive shifts within the society at this point. So, it's...
I mean, if she'd paid a bit more attention to what the dynamic between her ladies in waiting happening, she could have picked up on the overt racism, but she was staring out the window, which is, like, understandable. She's horny, but, like...
Yeah, staring out the window and, ooh, baby, look at you, and, she's got this little Mozart dude in there, playing piano, and...
She's not even paying attention to Mozart.
No, she's busy. She's busy goggling.
That really reminded me of Elizabeth's window of doom from Poldark, just staring out the window.
Oh, God, the window, no.
Exactly.
No.
One thing I noticed was that the ball was very aesthetically similar to the very first ball we saw of season 1, where Daphne met Simon, with all of the dangling things, I was like, Danbury, it's been like almost 60 years. You might want to have changed the aesthetics up a little.
Might want to mix it up a bit. I mean, I understand that, there is, tradition in that, your ball officially starts the season, but, them decorations are getting a bit dusty.
I mean, to be fair, she switched it up for season 2. She was like, we're going into the conservatory.
Yes.
Do you think that was like the first time she changed it? She was like, oh, this is getting tired.
She's like, I can't stare at those nasty things one more time. Thank you very much. Oh, God. Well, the madness of King George.
Yeah, what did you think about how this was introduced?
I thought that, the way that it was introduced, with him out there chasing after Venus and, communing with nature in his nature suit. I thought that it was, not having seen the movie The Madness of King George, so I don't have any of that as a reference going into this. I found it to be, I could see why it would be incredibly disconcerting to, everyone around. That, it was like, okay, we've got this king, and we can't let anybody know that, he is out there dancing with the fairies. And we've got to make him look like, he's got all his eggs in a basket. And it was really sad to see him just kind of, devolve into, this individual who really had no grasp of reality. And I absolutely adored the way Charlotte just, took a look at what was going on and just said, right, fine, let's go with it. And, he is a person to her, as she said earlier in the movie or in the show, and that he can be a person with her. And that's who she saw. She saw a person and responded as a person would, and is going to protect her husband. So I thought that was lovely, but I am very, very intrigued to get more into the details around what all we think is going on with George III.
As I mentioned in the recap, this scene where she wakes up in the middle of the night, really reminded me of a horror movie or like a gothic movie.
Mm-hmm.
She wakes up and she discovers her husband has turned into this monster overnight, which I think it made me feel really uncomfortable. It felt kind of crass. And I hope that going forward, they are a little bit more careful in how they choose to shoot this, because, I mean, that's really othering.
Mm-hmm.
It was just that particular moment. I mean, other than that, I thought it was, like, really brilliantly well acted. And, this is what I came for. This is the main event. I'm excited to see how they choose to do this.
Yeah.
Because depictions of bipolar people are so really, really rare on screen. And half the time they're just wildly wrong. So I want to see if they can do a good job with this. So far it's been a bit mixed. I'll be delaying my full judgment on how they're handling this until we see more than just one scene, because I feel like the scene we got this episode was really more about Charlotte and her reaction than it was about what George is going through.
Yeah.
So I want to see episode 4 and see like what choices they've made. But so far it's been a bit mixed.
Okay.
For me.
Okay.
I'm very invested in the storyline. They better not fuck it up.
Well, it's time for you to teach us, lady. So,
okay.
What's going on in the unnecessary historical context corner this week?
Woo! Okay, so the coronation in real life took place just a fortnight after the wedding on the 22nd of September, 1761. Charlotte wore the same dress she wore to the wedding. Hopefully she got it fixed a little better.
Yeah.
And from what I understood, it was absolute chaos. They forgot the Sword of State, which if you watch the recent coronation, you'll know is carried throughout the whole thing. Very important.
Yes.
They forgot chairs for the king and queen and their canopies.
Oh my God.
The service took 6 hours. 6 hours.
Oh.
So the public had picnics sent in, and at solemn moments, you could just hear a clattering of knives, forks, and plates. Nobody could hear anything.
It's like dinner theater.
The thing is, nobody could hear anything because this was before microphones. So literally, like, the people around them could hear it, but everybody else was just like, oh, might as well drink. When the king complained about the poor management, the Earl Marshal, who is responsible for organising the event, promised him solemnly that the next coronation would be conducted with the greatest order imaginable. George found the remark so funny he made the Earl repeat it several times, like, bitch, the next coronation? I'm not going to be there.
Right. Wow.
The famous gold state coach, which we saw recently, we associate this with all coronations now, was built for George III's coronation, but was not ready in time, just like adding to the pile of shit that went wrong. It was completed the following year, and it's been used in the coronation of every British monarch since William IV.
Wow.
It's apparently the world's most uncomfortable carriage as well, so it's like light and uncomfy.
Now, is that the same carriage that was used in the various different weddings and things like that?
No.
No? Okay,
the state carriage just comes out for like...
For coronations.
Because it's just so uncomfortable.
Okay. Wow. Honestly, I think it's like, okay, why don't we just 86 this thing and build something that's going to be a little more comfortable?
I think because it was so expensive to build that they're like, oh, we've got to justify the cost. Let's keep using it for the next 200 years.
Oh my gosh.
Weirdly, the royal family is quite frugal in the fact that if they've got something, they're going to use it. Like, we're not buying a new carriage for this. More fun times. Christmas trees.
Yes.
So, fun fact, while the tradition's popularity in England is usually attributed to Prince Albert, Queen Charlotte was indeed the first royal to put up the first known tree at Queen's Lodge, Windsor, in December 1800. However, Christmas trees were still not a known custom outside royal life in England. It wasn't until an illustration of Queen Victoria and Albert gathered around an opulently decorated Christmas tree was published in the Illustrated London News in 1848 that the Christmas tree quickly became a firm festive favourite among the middle classes, who were keen to emulate royalty. Each year, the prince would organise for royal Christmas trees from the various royal estates to be gifted throughout the country to barracks, hospitals and schools, and so people in England would be like, yeah, Albert did the whole tree thing, right? And it's like, technically, no. But...
Yeah, he just marketed it a little better.
Mozart. If you're familiar with Mozart, and I assume you've watched the movie because you talk about it so much.
Oh, yes.
You'll know that he and his family went on a grand tour of Western Europe in 1764. As an 8-year-old, Mozart played for the King and Queen for the first time. They would perform several times for the monarchs over the next few months. One time, Wolfgang was even allowed to accompany the Queen as she sang an aria.
Ooh.
He subsequently dedicated 6 sonatas for the harpsichord with violin or flute accompaniment to the Queen. He sent her this letter. I had to read it out because it's just so incredibly dramatic. Dedication. To the Queen, Madame, full of pride and joy at daring to offer a homage to you, I finished these sonatas in order to lay them at the feet of your Majesty. I was, I confess, intoxicated with vanity and ravished myself when I perceived the genius of music at my side. It is said that everything should be allowed to genius. I owe mine the happiness of pleasing you, and I forgive its caprices. Deign, madam, to receive my poor gifts.
Well, well, well.
The drama.
Wolfie, goodness.
She must have made quite the impression.
Yeah, I will paraphrase one of my favorite sayings. Too many words here.
It's very in keeping with his whole
Yes,
vibe.
very much.
Okay, so now we come for the longest section.
Yes.
George's mental health. Woo!
I'm here for it.
I remember you saying that you thought he didn't get sick until later in life, and you are right. The official known episodes were from the summer of 1788. He was incapacitated, remember, which led to months of political wrangling before they attempted a regency bill authorising the Prince of Wales to act as regent. But then, you know, the king recovered 6 months later, just like, I'm back, bitches. And he was able to conduct his own royalty, I suppose, for the most part, until he had a second major lapse in 1810, which we discussed a lot in our podcasts. It was a major part of those books. But in January 1765, 4 years into his marriage, when he was only 26, George fell ill with a quote-unquote cold that lasted on and off until the end of July. There are no physician's notes from that period, which is very unusual. His later bouts of illness were very well documented, which suggests that they were trying to maybe cover their tracks with his illness. But there are a few accounts from that time that suggest he was actually suffering from the first bouts of the illness that would later take over his life. So what was he suffering from?
Yes.
Making retrospective diagnosis in historical figures is fraught with difficulties, especially in psychology. And there have been a lot of theories from the late 1960s onwards. The king's illness was misdiagnosed as porphyria, which is a type of liver disorder. And the play and the 1994 film, The Madness of King George, are based on this since disproved theory of porphyria, which is a blessing for me because I don't want to talk about his pee. So much of it is about what colour his pee is.
Oh, yeah.
Modern medical opinion has concluded that the king suffered from recurrent manic depressive psychosis. There's evidence of elation, handwriting change, pressure of speech, disinhibited behaviour, occasional violence, disorders of thought, that is psychosis, which all point towards acute mania, which is what we now call bipolar disorder. The 1765 attack is a classic prodrome example. That is an early symptomatic illness presaging worse to follow. Quote, there were days of dejected brooding followed by short and indefinite periods of increased activity, but it was so mild that it incapacitated him for only a few days at a time. Its true nature was successfully masked for everyone but the few people close to him. End quote. Although his mood was pathologically exaggerated, George's thinking was not distorted. He lost track of neither time or reality as he would with his later attacks, and it appears he was not delusional. Under what is known as rapid cycling, patients get better, but for shorter and shorter periods, and without lithium, there was nothing to decrease the severity of his episodes as his life progressed. The thing that the show got right is that although a major life event can trigger a relapse or illness, there's not really a prerequisite for illness, and nothing really stressful served as a trigger in this early episode. It's likely that it was a biological factor. The Princess Dowager had indeed tried to keep this illness from Queen Charlotte, but Charlotte really asserted herself during the emergency, helped to actively cover up his symptoms from the public, and more importantly, the ministers and the gossip at the time was that George seemed to be consumptive because he was really pale and he lost a lot of weight. When he appeared in public, everyone just assumed that the cold story was true. And it really wasn't until much later that people were like, oh, wait, maybe that was an episode.
Wow. I am definitely, as you mentioned earlier, I am definitely looking forward to how they proceed with this in the subsequent episodes. Now that they have dropped this little bomb on all of us, and hoping to see Charlotte, doing some of the things that she is reported to have done to help support him. I would love to see her, actively working on calming the ministers. Yeah, that would be really great to see portrayed. But
she's not even been in the same room as Lord Bute, who
I know,
seems to have
right?
a lot of opinions about her.
Yeah. So anyhow, thanks for all of that. You say it's unnecessary, but I really think that it really adds a flavor and color to what we're seeing on the show. And so I appreciate your research and dogged insistence on making sure that we are aware of all of these things.
I think it's genuinely interesting as well, because sometimes I do read details in the 4 biographies I've read now, and I'm like, oh, like they should have included that on the show.
Yeah.
Like this week, I found out that actually Charlotte was inspected by a physician before she moved over to England.
Oh, no.
It was a gynecological examination.
Oh, God.
But apparently the guy that did it was actually very thoughtful, so she made him her royal physician. So she was like, you know what? You didn't treat me like shit. I'm rewarding you.
God, I think I'm still having nightmares about
from the Empress.
The scene from the Empress, which was just so heinous. Ugh. So let's dive into the storylines. Charlotte and George, 1761. I thought that, the whole even days thing that, we started everything off with was hilarious. And, especially, in the whole, oh God, I hate you. I can't stand you. Blah, 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 blah. Let me tear your clothes off and, fuck you until you're blind, that kind of thing. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And, what the urgency that, new lovers have in getting back together with their squeeze, was really entertaining to watch. I thought the scene of the two of them in bed where they're really having that sweet conversation about you're a person to me, I am a person to you. No more even and odd days. They are just days. I thought that was just absolutely lovely. And I loved seeing the two of them together. When they showed up at the Danbury Ball, oh my flippin' God. They were amazing. And the chemistry that these two actors have with one another is just off the chain.
No notes. That was 100% correct. Yes.
Yeah.
I think I really, really enjoyed the scene of them in bed talking the most. I love a communication scene.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing sexier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh.
And just her, acknowledging that she may have been rash.
Yes.
Hey, I apologize for that. I've tried to understand your point of view.
Yeah. I just I absolutely adored every scene with them in it this week. I really did. Augusta and Lord Bute. Lord Bute. Beauty.
I'm very intrigued by this dynamic, and I wish we could see a little bit more of the political manoeuvring behind the scene of like what's going on in Parliament, because it feels like sometimes Lord Bute is calling the shots, and then sometimes Augusta pronounces like the king proclaims racism is over, huzzah.
Yes.
Just from the king, and Lord Bute just accepts it, and
like,
then other times Lord Bute.
He's like, absolutely not. Oh, God. I am still just loving Augusta, and she is just so royal. And incredibly powerful and manipulative, and, you know, and the fact that Lady Danbury can get in there and just play her like a fiddle, has been pretty delightful to see as well. But yeah, intrigued to see where this goes.
I think that they're sort of introducing like another side of Augusta though, because at first she's like a bit snooty with Agatha. There was like a softening going on as the scene progressed, where Agatha's like, "Oh, is it Lord Bute?" And she's like, "It's none of your business." But yes, it is. There we go. Lord Bute's being a dick. And like I said last week, she is obviously the only one holding this whole government together. So I feel kind of bad for the amount of pressure she's under, like trying to keep everything going. And the scene where she acknowledges how happy her son is, and she looks, oh my God.
That was so
just the smile on her little
sweet.
face. I was like, this is the first time she has used those muscles.
Right. And the first time that, at least for me, this was the first time where you actually saw the kind of the maternal pride that she had in her son. You know, beyond that, you know, she has been basically utilizing him as a tool. And this was the first time that, you know, we actually get to see her, you know, say that, to have that moment of maternal love and pride kind of really evident. That she let the mask down. Good God, it's loud in this neighborhood.
I was going to say that was a very loud.
That was a car, I guess. But anyway, sorry about that, kids.
So we got introduced to Lord Ledger, Lady Ledger, and Violet this week.
Yes. I love Lord Ledger.
I kind of wish the family had been introduced a little earlier into the show, because they felt so shoehorned in this week. It's like, suddenly we're here.
Yeah.
I think they could have been, you know, it would have been nice to see them at the wedding. They could have been at the wedding.
Yeah, that would have been lovely.
I do hate Violet's mother.
Oh, God. With a passion.
But I liked her being like, oh, well, I love the Queen. She is an exception. Love her. The other black people I can't stand.
Yes.
It's
oh,
like
my
classic
God.
racism.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I like these people. These folks, you know, they're educated, and, you know, they speak well, and, you know, all of this other kind of stuff. And then the rest of them are just, it's just kind of your typical racist asshole.
She reminded me of like a 1950s housewife that loved Sidney Poitier or something, you know?
Yes.
She's got her exception, and everyone needs to be like that one.
Yeah, you know, he's so well spoken. Oh! Yeah. Mm-hmm. Don't get me started on that.
I feel like Lord Ledger has a tiny crush on Agatha. I mean,
I do too.
Understandable.
Well,
she's
yeah.
a stone cold hottie, but
well, and now she's a stone cold hottie widow.
Oh, but he's married. Oh, that could be messy. This is problematic in so many ways.
Yeah.
Not an option for you, Agatha.
No, because, you know, you don't want to be, you know, the mistress of your now friend, Violet. No, that's just messy. Okay, strike that.
It's really weird that watching Violet and Agatha talk in the future, knowing that she'd like listened to Violet talk about how her father made her those birthday hats. And just nothing on her face, like, oh, I met him. Nothing.
I know, right? Violet would be, aware of the family connections at that point, but how much she knows about how things got kicked off, with her father being the one to ask Agatha to dance, to help mix the crews together, that would have been a nice story for him to share with his daughter.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, also, the whole 56 years between the two timelines thing is... Don't try and do maths, people.
No,
this show is not a fan of maths.
No.
Which, I'm not either, but...
Yeah, but we are into timelines and that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's painful. It's like, this is a fantasy.
Violet?
This is a fantasy. This is a fantasy. This is a fantasy. Oh my gosh. But let's see. The older Charlotte and her daughters. I thought that scene, by the end of it, I thought that scene was really lovely.
Yeah.
Sad, but lovely.
Sad. Yeah. I was getting quite emotional with Brimsley actually being allowed to say something nice.
Yeah.
I just find the scenes with her daughters really brutal.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like, look at these virgin freaks in the room playing with their doll's house.
Yeah. Did they marry?
Half of them did, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And the ones that didn't marry, a lot of them were speculated to have had like secret husbands and lovers, and even some secret illegitimate children of their own.
Oh, well.
So I find the whole look at these virgins thing really ridiculous because
yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
There's a difference between being unmarried and being a virgin.
Exactly. Yeah, what Charlotte doesn't know won't hurt her at this point. Oh, God.
Those poor women are just like, let's not do any more of these virgin freak show scenes, please. It always makes me uncomfortable.
It's perfectly okay to be a virgin. And in your older years, it's perfectly okay to be not interested in sex and that kind of thing. It's perfectly normal not to have children's.
Please preach it.
Yes.
Yeah, look, honestly, it's a very legitimate choice during a period of time where healthcare was staggeringly shit for giving birth. I would not be wanting to bear children. Especially because Charlotte just died trying to give birth.
Yeah. Hygiene. Oh, God.
Imagine watching your niece die in childbirth and then your mum being like, oh, go have a baby.
Yeah. You're like, no, thank you.
No, thanks.
Yeah. Not enough money in the world. Thank you very much. How about that scene? The scene with Violet and Lady Danbury. I must admit that I did not pick up on the story that we would later hear about why the use of the term most fortunate came up, because I was just as shocked as Violet was to hear Lady Danbury say that. And it just went over my head. And then, of course, when we hear the story, it was like, okay, Michelle, duh. Of course.
I thought that was really
that's
obvious.
What she meant. No, I was having a moment of not picking up on things when that happened.
Violet is very lucky in life. She had
God.
a father that loved her. I mean, her mother was racist, but doesn't seem to be a bitch to her that much.
She winds up marrying exactly.
Lived a blessed life for many years.
Yeah, she has a billion kids with him until he's freakishly killed by a bee. And, she's had 2 children who have had amazing marriages.
Grandbabies.
Yes, and she's got grandbabies and, all of these things. She is most fortunate.
Violet has always come across as incredibly naive.
Naive, yes.
Seeing the backstory with her parents, you definitely get the impression that wasn't a love match. So for her to remain so belligerently idealistic is a choice, and
yes.
not coming from like a lack of. Charlotte is sheltered when she's idealistic. She has a reason to be
yes.
naive. And then I look at Violet, I'm like, why are you naive? You've been exposed to the world and its injustices and how misogynistic it is, and you still believe in true love, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Sometimes when you see a grown woman saying the things that she does, it just is like, what Disney princess world did you come out from? It doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
So I was actually reacting completely differently from you. I was like, Violet is being incredibly childish and showing a lack of emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
She's known Lady Danbury for how long, and she hasn't picked up on the fact that Lady Danbury never mentions her husband or like, I miss him so much. Like, pick up on the vibes she is putting down, and that not everybody had like a glorious marriage like yours. Like, just pick up on that vibe. It's not hard.
Not everybody was as fortunate as you, Violet.
What was weird for me in that scene was how different Lady Danbury's tone was when discussing her past was to what we get in the actual scenes. Like, I was like, is this the same person? Because she seems like traumatized. It's like Adjua got the script and understood that she was being raped repeatedly.
Yeah.
And the rest of nobody else on the show really got that.
Yeah.
That's a real weakness of the show for me, is that I don't feel like the 2 Lady Danburys have remotely connected yet.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're very different people.
I mean, there's, a thought that the younger Lady Danbury, while she's aware of what's going on, could be, just in that, okay, I'm just going to endure.
Survival mode, yeah.
I'm just going to get through this. And it only comes with age that the fury about what she had to endure has really taken hold. So
that would make a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would want that to be explored a little more, because I think that is really insightful. And honestly, a lot of what women do is repress. Until you get to a point where you're like,
you can't repress it anymore.
To me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense, but we would need more than one scene, really.
Yes. It would be wonderful if they go into detail about that. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
I'm looking
older Danbury, please, because there's not been enough Adjua.
Yes, please. She's wonderful.
Favorite scenes?
The Danbury Ball scene where the king and queen appear is one, and the scene where they're in bed talking.
Those are my 2 choices. Snap. All right, that's done.
Yes.
On to the next one.
Any of the Beetlejuice rape scenes would fall into that category, including the one where he bit the dust. I mean, I'm glad he's gone, but how horrible would that be for a memory?
That is trauma. That's layers of trauma that you can never get over. I think I texted you like, she's never having sex again.
I know. I know. But yeah, those scenes definitely my least favorites. How about you? Any others?
I think for me, it is actually the scene where Agatha goes to her servant and they hug and they jump around, and then they go and create an elaborate scene for the sake of some servants.
Yes.
I thought that was stupid.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel authentic to how anybody would react in that situation. It was like a skit, like they'd practiced. This is a pivotal, life-changing moment for this character.
Yeah.
And again, this is one of those moments that fell flat for me because it didn't feel like a real emotional reaction.
Yeah.
And again, like when I think about what Adjua was emoting versus what we got in the past, it's like completely different shows.
Yeah.
Like they have really different understandings of what happened.
Yeah.
And the way they just breeze past trauma upon trauma is like really starting to annoy me. I'm like, okay, like, can we have like a beat? Can we have a beat to maybe process what's happened?
Exactly. You know, the fact that, you know, it's like, okay, well, here's the rape, and then here's the bath, and here's the conversation between, you know, Agatha and her maid, and, you know, ugh.
I also, again, like when I say like it doesn't feel authentic, a lot of people who are in those kind of abusive situations will have something horrible happen to that person and they actually feel like the loss and their sadness.
Yes.
Because it's complicated. Like, it's not straightforward jumping up and down glee. And I would have liked to have seen a little bit more nuance so she felt like a real person rather than just like, wee.
Yeah.
Let's go fake a scream.
Yeah. Ugh.
I'm always complaining on this podcast. I swear the episode was fine.
Oh, but let's talk about something we love to talk about. Yeah, it's a wig talk time.
Can we wig talk? We're talking wigs, baby. Can we wig talk? Baby. Talk about wigs growing. How to even begin to describe the Christmas wig?
Oh my God!
That design.
These folks in hair, specifically hair, but hair and makeup are basically just raising the bar. Every single episode, they step it up a notch. And it's like, you people are frickin' wizards. I don't know what they're doing, but it's amazing to see what they come up with.
It's like designs that you've like never even thought about, imagined, let alone seen anywhere else. Like, it looked like a fan, but also an afro. Like a fan fro. It was amazing.
Oh, it's just so incredible.
Also occurred to me watching this episode that Lady Danbury's hair has gone from braids in the past to a silk press.
Yeah.
I was like, how do you even get a silk press before you had heated combs? Like, but I wonder if it's like symbolic of her. She's ironing her hair. She ironed her hair.
That's what they do.
To the roots. The roots are straight anyway.
Yeah.
I can't even get a straightener to do my roots, okay?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if it's like symbolic of her like assimilation into the town and she's taken on some of their beauty standards. I wonder if like that's a thing, but I don't know. Like, mostly I'm just like, I wish she kept the braids.
Yeah.
Epic. I'd love to see her hair down once as well. She's always like, even when she's in the bath, always up.
No, it's just incredible.
Speaking of favorite costumes.
How do we pick? How do we choose?
Well, I love a nightgown, so I'm going to go with the nightgowns, because this is an episode for nightgowns. Like, they were really shining.
Yeah, definitely.
An exquisite robe. This was the episode for you. Amazing. Beautiful.
Insane. I thought that the outfit that she wore when she climbed into the bathtub was gorgeous.
I want that. I want that whole look. I mean, I don't know if I could sleep in it because
I get too hot, so, you know, I would have to hang it up on a hook. But, you know.
Maybe get a slit or something, like so I could stick my leg out.
Yes. Gotta be able to put the foot out just to kind of be that heat sink to get you through the night. But I mean, I thought that costume that she wore to the Danbury Ball was lovely. Just that kind of icy blue color that
Again,
goes so
very
lovely.
Bridgerton season 1.
Mm-hmm. It goes so lovely with her skin. I still just can't get over these damn wigs.
I really liked quite like a beautiful angled straw hat when they were walking through the garden. I was like, oh my god, a hat.
Yes. Love
with like
that.
a very like deep blue
Mm-hmm.
gown with it, which was great. It reminded me a bit of my favourite looks from Marie Antoinette. They had very similar aesthetics. So that was, I was like, this is peak fashion. This is the best.
Oh yeah. We are nowhere near your least favorite season, the Regency era. So, we are getting the fits. We're getting the proper fits.
Everyone is looking sensational. Needle drop moment.
Oh gosh.
Did you notice it this time?
I did.
Thank God. It wasn't subtle, was it?
No, it was not. I kind of wish it had been a little bit more subtle, but
I was going to say,
yeah,
it was like, here's the song.
Yeah,
okay.
And I don't know if really that one was the best one to pick for that moment, but
it's cute, but it's nothing special. I don't know why they made it such a big deal. Like, we've got an Alicia Keys song, like, and nobody remembers that song that well. Like, that came out so long ago.
Yeah,
it's not like one of her big hits, is it? It's not like Falling, like Calm Down.
Yeah, I needed to. I mean, I recognized it when it, started playing, but then I had to go and, look it up to kind of go, okay, yeah, all right, gotcha. Shrug emoji. But
we've only got 2 songs, so this may be a bit early, but maybe I just don't have the same musical taste as Shonda Rhimes or whoever produced this episode. It's not hitting like the season 1 and 2 songs. They would drop and I'd be like, remember when they did Nirvana in season 2 and you were like, oh my god, what a choice. Like, that was amazing. And this is hitting and you're like, okay.
Okay.
It sort of feels like very formulaic. Like, we have a dance. We're going to play the Alicia Keys song here, okay?
Performer of the episode.
For me, it was Adjoa. I know she's barely in this, but I just think that one scene of her talking about her marriage was
that was powerful.
That I'm going to remember it forever. Like, the way she said loathed was like, it hit me deep inside.
She got every single ounce of sound out of that word, every single letter she squeezed dry. Loathed.
That's why she makes the big bucks doing audiobooks.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh.
What about you?
She, I think, is always in my top 3 of this series. I thought that the younger Lady Danbury, I thought that she did a great job. But I would have to agree with you that it was the Adjoa's performances that really hit home. I will hold judgment on the performances that we got out of both our dear Corey Milch. I can't even try it. It's Corey M and India Rhea.
Just call him Corey.
Yeah. So Corey and India Rhea, I will hold judgment on how I feel about their performances based on where we go from here.
I don't think there's like anything particularly wrong with Corey's performance. I think I was just struck by how they turned it up to 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is obviously not his choice. But he was
Yeah.
literally stripping naked and bowing down to Venus. And I was like...
That's pretty intense. Alrighty then.
We just went for the most intense version of a manic episode possible.
Yeah.
I hope that he gets to do some more subtle work later on, because I think everybody imagines mania to be like this complete psychosis, and there are different layers to a manic episode. I've had manic episodes, but I've never had a full psychotic one. And I think at this stage of his mental illness, it shouldn't be as severe. I was just like, he's lost complete, like, his whole faculties instantly in a couple. I don't know how long he's been up, maybe like 2 hours.
Yeah.
He went to bed fine. He's woken up bowing down to Venus.
Right.
It felt a bit over the top. I want subtlety, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm always complaining, but like this is
important.
I don't know. It's just like, it is important to me personally. I don't know if other people care that much. If they just want to see somebody like go a little bit crazy and feel the emotion of that. But I would rather have something that depicts it with care.
Yeah.
So that, because like, honestly, last public figure that had a manic episode was Kanye West, and he's not really showing everyone in like the best light, is he?
No,
So,
he's not.
I just need some good representation.
You need some good representation. Yeah.
Okay.
Fingers crossed that we'll get it.
Yeah, I think next episode would be where they do. How many crowns out of 5?
I'm gonna give it 4.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the same I gave it last week, which was 3.5. Because still 2 rapes, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not bumping it until next week where we get 0.
So we have a rape-free episode. Knock on wood. Beetlejuice is gone.
Oh, what if I said that and then somebody else gets raped?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like we're being hopeful. Please, nobody pick up that torch. Let that torch be like dead torch.
Okay.
All right.
Inbox
time. Hello, Michele and Rita. Love your podcasts and loving this one too. Normally, I've loved your week-to-week podcasts, but having binged QC over 24 hours, I'm thinking the show has been made specifically for the binge watch. I rewatched it since, in line with your the first 2 episodes on Queen Charlotte, and yes, it seems disjointed. It takes too long to make sense of it all, and therefore doesn't make sense, and character development is fractured. I realize that you've not done the binge, but I think this was made for back-to-back viewing. We'll be interested to hear your thoughts as your watching progresses, and your final thoughts when you possibly go back and binge. Love your work. Big fan from 2,000 kilometers north of Sydney, Australia. It's a jewel called Bar Beach. Mel.
Ooh.
Kiss, kiss, kiss.
Hey.
That sounds
Thanks,
wonderful.
Mel. I know bars, beaches. That's 2 of our favorite things.
Sign me up. Okay.
You know, we've had a number of comments of people being like, it's better if you binge, but like, we can't podcast that way. Like, my mind would
it would explode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think not everybody watches shows that way. I know the binge model is what Netflix is based on, but I don't personally binge everything.
Yeah. In many cases, you're all the better for it, especially when you are binging shows that Netflix is not releasing everything all at once, and you have to suffer the week-to-week pain and agony of waiting for your shows.
The K-drama angst.
Yes.
Yes.
It is real.
I forgot what I was going to say. But then there were shows like The Empress, which we watched week to week, that I think was designed for a binge model and that actually held up really well watching 1 episode a week.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to make a show for Netflix, you have to make a show that can work either way.
Yeah. Agreed.
And often I think when people binge shows. Like, whenever I binge a show, I don't find as many problems with it as when I'm watching it week to week, because you're literally flying through everything so quickly that you don't pick up on things. It's like, that's why Prologue, if you binge it, not as bad as when you watch it week to week. You don't notice the gaping plot holes. It's fine.
Yeah, it's all good. Wait, what about that? Yeah.
No. Dear Rita and Michele, I wanted to congratulate you both for your work on the podcast. Ooh.
Well, thanks.
I love your recaps and commentary and Rita's historical facts peppered throughout. Last week's episode on Queen Charlotte made me want to reach back out and say thanks for addressing some of the issues I've had with the show, starting with the whole Lady Danbury personal hell, which is being played off for laughs.
Yes!
I love the Lady Danbury character and felt she was a breath of fresh air during seasons 1 and 2, especially as a welcome counterpoint view to Violet and the show's standpoint, which lays on the love conquers all argument quite thick. I like her pragmatic and witty side and her independence. Her season 1 party for married women having a great time away from their husbands was my favourite scene of the whole season, I think. So I was really disappointed that they chose her origin story to be so seeped in trauma, as if badassery in older age can only be earned and not the natural evolution of someone who's just a little bit more discerning than her peers. I get that they wanted to explore through her what falling in love outside of marriage could look like, but they really didn't have to saddle her with old McRapey. McRapey is really funny.
Old Beetlejuice McRapey.
McRapey, especially because this is a Shondaland production and she had McSteamy anyway.
McDreamy and Steamy and yeah.
Nor show us those scenes of marital rape or edit them like they're a joke. They could have left those scenes out altogether and conveyed her situation by keeping her bathing ritual and dialogue with Crystal. Is her name Crystal?
Is it Crystal or Chloe?
Her name wrong.
I don't know. Begins with a C.
It's, I thought, or maybe it's Coral. I don't know.
God.
But overall,
we're so bad.
The character deserves better, and they could have pursued the idea of a loveless marriage as they did in The Empress and have her ship off her feckless husband to the country while she ran their affairs in London and ran the risk of scandal with an affair or something. Anyways, sorry for my rant, but this is spoiling quite a lot of Queen Charlotte for me. However, to end on a positive note, I feel the casting of the show is incredible and I'm really rooting for Charlotte and George. I'm also trying to get on board with the Great Experiment, although I tend to agree with your point of last week that they just seem to have invented a new type of racism. Living for the costumes, the sets, Reynolds and Brimsley, and deformed bunnies. Smiley face. Sorry for this long essay. I wish you both well, and best, Margot.
Oh, thanks, Margot.
Thank you, Margot. I think that was a really insightful point about how she was portrayed in the season 1 and 2 of Bridgerton as like this fierce, independent, strong woman, and then undermining it by being like, oh, but she's only like that because trauma.
Right.
You know, if she'd had a loving husband, she never would be independent and fun. Like,
heaven forfend. Yes. Oh my God. Ugh. Let's see. I don't think I liked this episode. The tone was all over the place, and the good moments couldn't make up for the stuff that annoyed me or made me go, why? Why is this in here? I love this.
This is Tara. I know a Tara when Tara email.
This show feels like it's having an identity crisis. It doesn't know what it is or what it wants to be. It seems like they wanted a prequel to capitalize on Bridgerton's success, but they didn't have any really great ideas. It's not like Julia Quinn already wrote a bunch of prequels or anything. So they did a mismatch of random plots and called it a series. It seems so disjointed, and I'm confused about what the story is actually trying to tell, so I'm having a really hard time getting invested in it. Let's start with the most unpleasant part first. Oh God, do we have to? The Danburys and the death of Lord Beetlejuice. I'm picturing him sitting in the waiting room in the afterlife now, reading the handbook for the recently deceased.
Considering he died, the Beetlejuice analogy is absolutely perfect.
Absolutely. Sorry. This storyline really bothered me on many levels. The sex scenes were awful, but then the way they handled his death was even worse. They had a few scenes where they humanized him and his relationship with Agatha a bit, but then they made a big joke out of his death. I'm not saying I liked him or anything, and I'm glad that's the end of it, but it left a really bad taste in my mouth, and they have some work to do now to make me actually like Agatha. What the hell was the point of Agatha and her maid staging histrionics and Agatha wailing, "Oh, my love is dead"? This whole thing just made no freaking sense, and I thought it was stupid. Amen. Then there was the surplus of bickering and sulking. These types of stories are just not my bag. While the smut was fun, there was too much childish sniping between Charlotte and George. It went on too long, and when they got over it so abruptly, I got whiplash from the mood change. Are we sure George is the only one in this pair with some kind of mental disorder? Wow.
I mean, she might have some kind of mood disorder. That's not out of the picture.
Yeah. Oof. Aunt Violet was also too whiny for me. Lady Danbury said she's lucky, so she goes into a sulky fit. I don't understand the insult here, or why this conversation was necessary, other than just as an excuse to use the actors. The exception to the bickering being annoying was the fight between Reynolds and Brimsley. That actually made sense. Was fueled by the fact that they care about the king and queen. It felt believable, and they got over it. Your eyes agreed. Maybe the best line in their lovers' spat.
That was good.
That was good.
That was funny.
Now for random thoughts. Rita, tell us how you feel about yet another hand-touching scene. Winky eye emoji. We can't have a period drama without a little finger sex. I did get a kick out of it being between Brimsley and Reynolds, though, as a spin on the trope. Young Mozart.
I'm going to chop off people's hands soon. I'm done with it.
Oh, Lord.
Stop touching. Use other appendages.
Young Mozart. Michelle, was that fun for the Amadeus fangirl in you?
Amadeus.
Yes, it was very, very fun. This whole timeline makes no sense.
Amadeus. Sorry, I've gone into Austrian 80s
my gosh.
pop.
This whole timeline makes no sense if you actually passed grade 1 math. Honey, we tell you, don't do math. Stay away. It's very clear in this episode just how young and naive Charlotte really is. She's a true teenager, which is probably why she annoyed me this week. I kind of like Lord Bute. He's dry and gets to say great lines like, "Happy wife, happy life, unhappy wife. I have lords all around me whining and drinking." I loved Violet's dad, and young Violet is less annoying than an adult Violet.
I agree. Love young Violet. What happened to her?
She's a sassy little thing. Throwing titles at people may not fix racism, but apparently throwing a party and then having one magical unifying dance at that party does.
Yeah.
Oh,
racism is over, everyone. 3 episodes
yes.
in. Yeah.
Huzzah! Is Agatha's real beloved actually her maid?
Ooh.
Question mark.
I'd get on board on that with that, but
yeah. You mentioned Reynolds and Brimsley probably not working out because we don't see Reynolds in the future. You could be right, but they also have had a long life together. The fact that we don't know if it was happy or sad yet, and how it ends, is the part that interests me. I enjoyed everything about them. I'm glad that
old Reynolds. Give me old Reynolds.
Yes, me too. I'm glad that Charlotte, Brimsley, and Reynolds are now all on this. Now all in on the King's Secret. It'll make for better stories going forward than all of them just bickering and sniping at each other. The servants' reactions to Charlotte and George having Daphne and Simon level sex all over the dining room table was hilarious.
That was
yes. I'm starting to really like Princess Augusta. I loved how she was genuinely delighted to see George happy at the ball. I'm very confused by Agatha's threat to Augusta about not finding out right away that Charlotte is pregnant. That felt so lame. I have no use for the future Charlotte storyline with her daughters. She and Agatha both seem like they were really terrible mothers.
Where are her kids?
Yeah, I know. What I'd like to see next. Maybe a younger, more attractive man that shows Agatha that sex can be fun. Whatever it is, it has to be better than this episode. Tara.
See. Thanks,
yes!
Tara. Classic Tara.
Yes.
God, I'm trying to get Amadeus out of my head. But it's just such a good song.
Uh-huh. Happy Amadeus.
Hello, Michelle and Rita. This was a good episode. I was very happy with more Reynolds and Brimsley. I want their backstory. I love that Brimsley tried to hold Reynolds' hand and he pulled away at first, and then he touched Brimsley's hand. Swoon. More King George shirtless. Please. I was completely grossed out when they had to show the last sex scene of Lord and Lady Danbury. Again, why do they have to show sex between these two? Why? He is dead now, so yay, no more sex scenes. This should have happened in episode 1. Glad it is over. I like the introduction of Violet's dad, Lord Ledger. He told Agatha he liked her. Is he not happy with his marriage? How could he be happy with his marriage?
I know, right?
He met his wife,
Piece of work.
Love the scene with George and Charlotte. They are so adorable together. Loved them at Lady Danbury's ball. Loved their coronation, and it was so much better than Charles's coronation. Well, yeah, it had the benefit of being 30 seconds long. I don't mind the time jump, but I was not so crazy about having to go back and see how George was dealing with his illness before the coronation. It was a little confusing. Looking forward to listening to your thoughts on this episode, Delia from Austin.
Thanks, Delia.
It was a little confusing. They were jumping around in time all over the place.
They was everywhere.
Like, not even just future past. There's also, like, jumping around in the past. Such a nightmare to write the recap for, by the way. I was like, wait,
what are we doing?
No,
we're
in the future. We're past the coronation. Now we're back to the coronation. Now we're somewhere in the middle between the coronation and the future conversation for tea. I was like,
help.
I'm just going to write down the important parts.
Yes. That's the way to do it. Let's see. Hi, Rita and Michelle. Just love your podcast. Love the way you don't shy away from the sensitive rape issue. Loved your Bridgerton podcast and am thoroughly enjoying Queen Charlotte. Keep up the great work. From Di in Adelaide, Australia. Thanks, Di.
Thanks, Di. Or g'day, Di.
G'day, Di.
Oh, sorry. You gotta say it like it's a question. Di? You're flaming a laugh.
Oh.
Anyway. Hi, Rita and Michelle. I'm sorry I know you asked for brevity in emails, but I have so many thoughts. Apologies in advance.
Thoughts?
Hand play between Reynolds and Brimsley. Heart eyes emoji. And more cuddles too. Anyone else think they had other reasons to encourage harmony between king and queen? I mean, encouraging more time to negotiate if the king and queen actually live together. I'm just saying.
Yeah, seriously.
Mama Augusta loves her Georgie, really. Every mama will do everything they can to protect and make sure their cubs are loved and protected, especially her Georgie, who needs more care than others. She sees how in love he is. She has chosen well in Charlotte. Agatha is still negotiating like a demon with Augusta. The ladies-in-waiting and her husband. If the United Nations existed, she would have been an honorary member. Now I understand why she must hold the first ball of the season in Bridgerton World.
Yes.
Lord Danbury says, they are dangling joy in front of me, but never letting me grasp it. And she replies, you're every bit as good as they are. Quite caring, really, but perhaps she's projecting her feelings about herself, too. I think that's maybe just a slight on the people, like, on the white men. She's like, yeah, you're just as good as them.
Yeah.
They also suck. But on another note, I guess her future looks a bit brighter now she won't be troubled by Lord Danbury any longer. Or does it? She still feels the pain of her life's difficulties as you hear her tell older Violet how fortunate she is to have felt love for Edmund even though he's long gone. Charlotte and George, both of them are living for the happiness or misery of a great nation. Gosh, how they hate each other. Oh, please, eye roll emoji, their eyes and their little smiles, and George's obviously good button pressing gives it away.
Yeah, a little bit.
They can't keep it up forever. The hate that is, think of the cost of replacing all that broken crockery. I know.
I know, jeez.
Look, the maid is going to have to pick that up.
Uh-huh.
That's very inconsiderate. Anyway.
Yeah.
I love how Charlotte is working to dig deeper into finding the real George. She knows that there must be more to him. Finally realizing that George knows he is pressured by his position in life, she understands why he farms and stares at the stars. Charlotte is finally getting it. Well, almost. They need to be a team to move forward through this marriage. Brimsley strikes a raw nerve in older Queen Charlotte when asked why her daughters had never married. She's making him stand in the corner so he can't see her tears, and yes, she is frozen in time.
Yeah.
A serious note now. Poor darling George starts to descend into a manic and delusional episode. How this breaks my heart, not only because it's happening to George, but it brings back memories of working with schizophrenic patients. It was the most humbling work I've had in my career. I learnt so much about the human spirit through the patients, their families, and the staff. It really was a time of looking inwards and reaching for the kindness and respect for others when they're suffering through such distressing episodes. Not everyone can see and act to help in such an upsetting circumstances. Many don't or are paralysed by fear. But Charlotte really connected and steps up. It's wonderful, but my heart is clenched because there will be so much more for them to deal with. Reynolds is visibly distressed by the situation. Perhaps he finally has someone else, Charlotte and Brimsley, to help him bear this heavy burden, which he's obviously been doing for some time, caring for George. God knows he'll need it. Strapping myself in for another roller coaster that's coming. Ciao, Maria, Australia.
Thanks, Maria. We're really hitting it in Australia.
I know. Something about us appeals to Australians.
I guess so. Hi, ladies. Trying to keep this short. I like this episode. It seems to move us forward in very interesting ways. Here's a few thoughts. The bad. Reynolds, hanging around the cellar. You had one job. You didn't even try to keep guard of the door where the king was being examined. But really, was that the best place for this different doctor to meet the king? Yeah, I know.
I know. So many people could have seen.
Don't get Rita started on Violet's age and timeline with the regular Bridgerton series. I started down that rabbit hole, and the only explanation is that in early QC timeline is later than the real story, which helps with the actresses not having to look like they're in their 80s. Plus, this young Violet seems a lot smarter than her grown-up self. Huh.
I love that we're all on the same page about that.
I know, right? Lady Danbury is all over the place, acting very tender with Beetlejuice in one scene and high-fiving her maid when he dies. One explanation is that she and her maid figure the best way to kill him was via sex, and they were planning it all along. Oh, God!
Oh, that's the body of evidence. You see that movie with Madonna where they go to court and they're like, she killed him with sex.
Yes. Oh, my God.
Her body is the weapon.
Wow. Lord Butte, although she spelled it B-U-T-T-E, so Lord Butt. I like that. Butte. Says, the lords won't go home because their wives are all whiny. Why can't we get any governing done? Wait, if they won't go home, doesn't that mean they have more time to be in Parliament and do some governing?
As someone who has got very drunk in the Parliament pub, I can promise you they're not doing much work down there as soon as the drinks come out.
I'm not sure I understand older Brimsley's explanation of why Charlotte's daughters haven't married. Please elaborate. The good. Lots of half-naked George. Lots of Bow-Chika-Wow-Wowing all over the place on even days. Hand sex. Yes, Rita, everyone is doing it all over the place on our period dramas. But I thought this was the most sensual between Brimsley and Reynolds. Rensley?
I
love it. The scene with Lady Bridgerton and Lady Dansbury in Lady D's house when she forces Violet there made me cry. I kind of get what they are doing with Lady Danbury, but I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Beetlejuice is dead. No more rape scenes, I hope. The last scene in the garden with George and Charlotte. Amazing. I said Charlotte is naive, but this episode shows she is wise. I do think you can be both. Thanks for the fun podcasts. Love to hear the real history too. Keep up the great work. Your loyal listener, Carol from Connecticut. Yay!
Thanks, Carol. Okay. Episode 4 description.
Yeah, for what it's worth.
George's hidden struggles and the extreme measures he's undertaken for a chance of future happiness with Charlotte finally come to light.
Well,
what a run-on sentence.
I know.
Christ, punctuation.
So, what are you looking forward to seeing?
That I want
Yes.
more madness storyline. Give me all of the insights into George's struggles, please.
Yes.
I'm
yes.
curious about what extreme measures. And I don't.
Yeah,
want to
same
see,
here.
Oh, we're gonna get like horrible medical practices. Probably.
Oh, God. Buckle in, sweetie, okay? You buckle in.
I don't want to. I don't. Like, can you? The research I will have to do if that happens.
I know, right? Oh, God. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that fleshed out quite a bit more. Very interested to see kind of what happens with Lady Dansbury, now that, she is a widow, and kind of where things go with her.
But the thing is, like, now I totally understand why she doesn't get married. Because she'd lose the title that she sacrificed so much to achieve.
For
like,
realsies.
Why would you marry a man without a title?
Yeah, and I mean, and she's got a boatload of cash.
Money.
She's got the title. She's Gucci now.
She's got nobody Beetlejuicing her way around the house. She just, why would you? Just chill.
Sign me up. Okay, well, that's enough nonsense from us today, I think. We will see you all next week, where we'll be discussing episode 4. Until then, follow us on social media. We are In the Books Network on Instagram and Twitter. Email at inthebooksnetwork@gmail.com, and we will read you out on the show. And please remember to rate and review because it really helps us reach a larger audience. What did you say in your text to me the other day? We have over 100,000 listens. Is that what they're called? Yeah. 100,000 across all of the various different podcasts that we've done over the years. And so, we couldn't do what we do without you, and we couldn't have reached all those folks without you. So, thank you all very much. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.